Yeah, watch my drip drop when I walk out. I'm in Saint Laurent when I hop out. You ain't getting guap, what you doing? You already lost when I hop out. Watch my drip drop when I walk out. I'm in Saint Laurent when I hop out. You ain't getting guap, what you doing? You already lost when I hop out.
All right, so we finally got the door or the roof where we wanted it, and we're moving on to the door. So on the door, we've got, it seems like a million dents. You got a dent here, you got a dent up here, you got a dent that runs, a big one here, and then you got one that runs vertical the whole distance to about right here. You got one above the panel that runs at a 45, above the door handle, I mean. And then you had that where we showed earlier in the video, or the last video, where it looked like the impact bar had tapped it from the inside, probably pushed it out. So pick that back inside to get it pretty flat. So you got this big damaged area right here, and there was a dip up in here somewhere. And then you had a pretty good size like this wave down the door that needs to be worked out. So instead of chasing all of these little tiny dents, I'm literally just gonna skim coat this whole entire door right through here, put a skim coat over it, and skim coat this whole entire area right here, and then hit, you know, a little bit of filler there and some filler right there. That way I can just take this whole area, block this all out, sand this all out straight, and it will catch all of them. Being each area has a good 2 to 4 dents per area that need to be worked. It's easier just to, when you're working with a bunch of dents in a little area like that, just to go ahead and swipe out the whole thing. I know it's a lot of filler you're initially putting on, but it's just easier to knock it all out one big swipe and then take it all off and then see where you still have low spots. So let's get after it.
Watch my drip drop when I walk out. I'm in Saint Laurent when I hop out. You ain't getting guap, what you doing? You already lost when I hop out.
After you mix the filler and you sling the filler, you just sit back and watch it dry. Throw you a little extra heat to it. Might speed it up. Just sit back, scroll Facebook, watch it dry. You don't want to mix it too hot because then it flashes off too fast to work with. And the result of mixing it a little colder like this and not where it flashes off so fast is you got a little bit of downtime. All right, so there's what we got after our first swipe. Like I said, this is where it paid off for once. One thing's going my way versus all the freaking work I did on the roof. That's just one swipe that's sanded with the DA sander. A DA sander is one like this, dual action sander. It means it moves 2 ways. It spins in circles and moves in and out slightly. Normally they have air. Most of the time if you see somebody using one that's plugged into a drop cord, most of the time they don't know what they're doing and you need to run for the hills, because normally that's like a wood sander. Not saying always, not saying there's not DAs on the market, but normally you should not be seeing somebody sanding on their car with anything using a drop cord probably. But anyways, back to this. So we sanded it with a DA just to get most of it knocked down, and then come in here with our old trusty hard block that I have gotten very used to with this car, and hand blocked everything down so it's flat as glass. Put guide coat on it first, and that's what this is right here. This is what I wanted to show y'all. So this is what I was talking about with guide coat. So you can actually, I don't know if you can be able to see it. It's a low spot. So when you're blocking over it, let me see. When you're blocking over it like this, basically, you know, the sandpaper doesn't hit. And it's not much, but it's a little bit. The sandpaper doesn't hit in there, so it just rides over top of it, and the guide coat shows you where the low spot is. So now all we need to do is come in here with filler and fill just that spot, because everything else was perfect. Like I put enough on there. I think I did have one little tiny nick in there. So that's more like dolphin glaze size, but I will go ahead and put some filler in it since I'm mixing that one up. But yeah, fill that in, and all that's good, man. All that blocked out straight and everything. Now on your door, when you're sanding your doors like that, if you want to, sometimes it's gonna be better to use like a long block like this. This is a long block, so this will get even straighter. But a lot of times this is for when you need stuff like like restoration level perfect. You know, you see how much longer that is? But this thing puts scratches a lot more places, and it's just a lot more work on you. So a little hand block like that for this, along with a combination of the DA, is perfectly fine. You also have other, you got all kinds of stuff. You got other little hand sanders like this that you can use. You know, it don't have to be blocked. So they come in all different shapes and forms, and then you actually have one that comes in a like this from Harbor Freight, which is called, I believe it's called like a jitterbug sander, and it's basically the same thing, but it does it by air. But I can block it out faster by hand than with that thing. So anyway, we're gonna skim coat that, get another coat on that, block that out, and then I feel like this thing's almost ready for primer, man. The roof has been an absolute nightmare. Me and the roof have definitely got to know each other very well, but it's all blocked out, skimmed out, and you know, I've got everything stepped out really far. Even if it's just a little dent, that dent goes down, but you want to you keep stepping it out so your eyes don't see it when everything's done. So all that stepped out nice. This, I mean, it's just absolutely nice. I'm very happy with how all that come out. And remember, even though it looks like a big glob, it's not thick like this. It's a skim coat. So in the areas that's the dent is filled in where the dent was, but then a lot of the other areas around it, I mean, all out around here, might be the thickness of a piece of notebook paper or computer paper, or a little less than that. So it's not like it's thick, it's just stepping out your imperfections so that you don't see anything. Doors get replaced. There's the door. The door was actually jammed last week. I didn't go over that in the last video. So we've already jammed the inside of it. The bottom is not there, the outside's not done. So we've got to swap that door out. The rocker's all done. We actually went and burned up some primer the other afternoon on the quarter panel. Is done. We actually burned up some primer on it the other day just because I had done so much work on that quarter panel. It will get reprimed again whenever all that gets primed, but I went ahead and I wanted to build some primer up on it. It's high build primer. That dent was taken care of. I still got this little guy right here that I need to get probably tomorrow, but besides that, we're on, let's see here, Wednesday. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're doing pretty good. We ordered the hood like I talked about in another video, so we don't have to do nothing with that. That fender's not getting paint. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think the front bumper was getting any paint. It may or may not now because of the hood, but it wasn't originally planned on getting any paint. We're gonna do a blend on this door, meaning our color will only come to here, so this door will match this fender perfectly. There won't be no issues there. Won't have to remove the Camaro emblems, nothing. That fender won't get disturbed. Mirror won't get disturbed, and the goal is to not disturb this quarter panel. So we've protected it. That's the reason why we put paint over it. We haven't been laying stuff all over the quarter panel. We'll lay stuff on the trunk because the trunk's getting painted and body worked, but you don't want to lay stuff all over your quarter panel because you don't want to accidentally get a scratch. We've taped it all up here. This will all just come right out. This is exactly what it's for, so when I'm slinging mud, I don't have to worry about anything getting on it. So as soon as I go to peel this tape, this will all just come right off with the tape. Protects everything underneath it, but we've protected our all of our pillar and everything. That way we don't get nothing on it. So hopefully no paint on the fender, no paint on the bumper. And I have to look at estimate again. I'm pretty sure I wrote it with no paint. No paint on the quarter panel, and I think the back bumper was a no paint. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the back bumper was a no paint because I've got, you know, this little bit of area to blend right here and blend it forward, and then the trunk panel, fix that, and then blend the rest of it, and then basically paint the whole side of this car, roof, hood, trunk lid. It's basically the whole top, this whole side, and door on that side. So keep going. This week we should definitely have this thing by Friday. Should definitely be in primer, out of primer, blocked, scuffed, and prepped to go into paint on Monday is the goal of this week. All right, so that's it for Wednesday afternoon. We got everything put into 180. So after you sand everything out with 80 grit, we got a mess going on everywhere. You go back over everything with 180. So we got everything hand blocked out with 180, sanded down. Got that piece fixed on the back of the deck lid. Got 2 little dents in here that I'm gonna hit tomorrow. I got the quarter panel blocked out. I'm actually probably gonna do a little more sanding on that tomorrow. Edge changing out the door now. I'm gonna go ahead and get the door off this afternoon. That way we can get the new one on. And then the goal still for tomorrow would be to get this thing in primer by tomorrow afternoon, get the new door hung on it, and go from there. All right, so Eddie got this thing in primer yesterday afternoon, so all we did was put it in neutral, push it outside of the booth. We're actually gonna leave plastic over it to help cut down on getting some of the dust, because I already got tons of dust all up inside here. They'll go inside the car, we gotta clean all that out, but it's just such a messy process that we're gonna leave the plastic on it and block out most of it to keep some of the dust out of it and off of it. And then that way, if we see any trouble spots that we don't like, that we need more primer on or whatever, since it's in neutral, we can just turn around and roll this thing right back into the booth. So the plans are, is while this is all taped, block it out. If all the primer and everything looks good after the blocking out, then we'll untape it and get the door on it, get the fender on it today. Hopefully, it is Friday, we only work till 11 on Friday. We get the door and the fender on it, hopefully get the whole thing Scotch-Brite and prep for paint, and that way it can dry over the weekend. All the water can evaporate, get all the insides cleaned out, like basically clean the whole vehicle, hopefully today, so that it's nice and clean for paint, and let it dry over the weekend and come in on Monday and retape it all up for paint. That's the goal, if we make it. If not, then it will be finishing on Monday, washing on Monday, and taping and shooting on Tuesday. Even in your primer coat, when you're blocking your primer coat, this is a filler primer, so it does build up. You can see, you know, the guide coat where it stays, so this is a low spot. Now this is a low, the thickness, I mean next to nothing. So normally by the time I block all this primer out, this will go away, because it's a minor low. And there's another minor low right there, but that's what your primer is there for. And then sometimes when you block all that out to get that out, you actually end up with something like this, you know, where you've actually cut through, back through to the filler to get this all back straight. But you know that in this step, this is flat as glass, because now your primer is a super thin coat to knock out the last little imperfections. So we're actually gonna block this out in all the panels like this that we straightened a little bit more and cut through in some areas like this. We're actually gonna shoot primer on these panels again for a second time. So we're gonna get 2 coats of primer, and sometimes that happens. But like the trunk lid probably won't need it, and we'll see if this door needs it or not when I get done blocking it out. As long as you don't really cut through to the body filler too much, then there's no reason to block it or to prime it again.
Watch my drip drop when I walk out. I'm in St. Laurent when I hop out. You ain't getting guap, what you doing? You already lost when I hop out. Watch my drip drop when I walk out. I'm in St. Laurent when I hop out. You ain't getting guap, what you doing? You already lost when I hop out.
All right, so we got our push back in here, and all we're gonna do is basically flow coat these again. So we haven't went over in none of my videos what flow coat is. So if you don't know, flow coat is basically taking a product after you normally wet sand, which we've dry sanded, but you'll put a product down, you'll sand that product, and then you will recoat that product with the same product, but really thin. So normally it's clear coat. Normally you shoot clear coat, wet sand, all the orange peel out of the clear coat, and then come back and shoot clear over it again that has extra reducer in it to make it extra thin so that it flows out better. I'm trying to catch my breath from pushing that heavy thing. Boy, these things are freaking turds, man. How heavy they are. Definitely ain't race cars. So the roof being we cut through, definitely want to reshoot primer on that. Not going to reshoot primer on the trunk because it turned out amazing. And it's a little area, so I'm not going to mess with that. I don't mind redoing this. Another reason why we're doing this is sanded in 180. So 180 grit, you can't paint over 180 grit. You need to step down to at least 320, and then if not, wet sand it. So what this will get done is step down to 320, and then 1,000 wet. This door panel turned out beautiful. So door's beautiful, there's no low spots. This is all just dust and stuff rubbed against it. A little bit of guide coat left where I didn't take it all the way off because I know this is flat and I know I'm gonna flow coat this door. So being this is 180, you would have to sand out the 180 grit scratches basically. They have to go away. You're gonna put 320 grit scratches into it. Then you're gonna take the 320 out with 1,000. So either way, you've gotta sand this again, whether you do it now or later. So what I wanna do is flow coat this. This gives it a thin layer of primer, again over our bodywork, and this will fill in the 180 grit scratches with new primer. And then we will block our new primer. I'm gonna spray this primer like clear coat really, so I'm gonna spray this with my clear coat gun actually, where it lays out really smooth. And then we will come back and block out the new primer with the 320, or if I lay it out wet enough, we might just go straight to 1,000. So we're gonna move our tape lines because we don't want to build, this is an example, we don't want to retape it right here because then your material is 2 times as thick right there. And we want to get rid of this hard line once we peel this back. So Eddie, when he was blocking all this, you can see he kind of rolled the tape back to go ahead and get rid of his edge. So we're gonna re-stick this, and then we're gonna re-stick it like that, and then we're gonna move our tape in another 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. That way we end up with technically 2 lines. So you got your first line where your primer stop, your second line where your flow coat primer stop. That way you're not cutting through 2 thicknesses worth of primer. But in this situation, you can see the primer stops up here, so there's no primer out here. So we'll definitely do step in just a little bit for safety, so that we make sure we're not double stacking. And then there will be some 180 grit scratches around the edge that we will wet sand out, which will go away fine. But just little stuff, cut through right there. But besides that, I mean, it's slick, man. It looks good. So this is from Eddie just pushing on it. So that wipes right off. But we're just gonna flow coat these panels. It's a better job. You got areas that you cut through, just need to cover up. It's just better overall, and it's just why not in this situation? So I want to try to do as best possible within a budget on this car, and this is what's gonna make me feel good about my work. So let's get this thing flow coated. All right, so we got our primer, mixing our primer up. This is the primer we're using right there. Get it at your local paint supplier, or if you don't have nothing near you, you can Google it and probably get it to your door. Your mixing ratio on this is gonna be 4 to 1. That means 4 parts primer, 1 part hardener. But we are gonna add reducer. I know I can reduce this. You can refer to your data sheets, like I went over in every video, but I know I can reduce this. So I put my 4 parts hardener in there. So we are on our 4 column, 4 parts to 3. So now, or it's actually about halfway of 3. So now we're gonna go to the halfway of the 3 on the next column. Right there, pretty much, okay? And I'm actually out of primer hardener. So I messed up yesterday, ran out of primer hardener. So I know I can use clear coat hardener, because the hardener is a hardener for the most part, as long as it's the same kind of material, such as urethane and different stuff like that. But I know that this will work. You have to figure that out for yourself and what products you're using. And I'm gonna burn up my extra slow because I actually hate this stuff. This is some stuff that I purchased when they were low on supplies due to the pandemic, and this is just like emergency. But this works excellent in this situation because we're trying to flow coat. So when you flow coat stuff, you want stuff to lay out really good, meaning you don't want it to dry fast. So using extra slow means that it's going to harden up extra slow. It's going to take a long time. So not only are we going to have a slow hardening product, but we're going to over reduce this thing, making it more like water, meaning this thing is really going to flow out. So let's pour some reducer into this. And we're going to go up almost to, yeah, pretty heavy, almost to 4 right there. So we really over reduce that thing compared to normal. But I'm not gonna get crazy because we're using extra slow, so that gives it plenty of time to lay out. All right, and we are gonna shoot this out of my clear coat gun. This is a, let me get it up here for you if I can find it. This is an Awada. You can't really see it. Anyway, this is an Awada Supernova. This is what I use to shoot clear, and I also use it to shoot base coat. I used to shoot with multiple guns, but now I don't. Most of the time you'll see me shooting my primer with this. This is an eBay Devil Bisque knockoff. I love the Chinese knockoffs. I don't care what anybody says, hate me or love me. Man, that thing was like 90 bucks, I think, and it shoots really good. It started having some other issues with leaking, and such, and so I switched it to a primer gun. So normally I shoot with that because it's a cheap throwaway, but being we want this primer to lay out thick, almost like I'm clear coating it, we're gonna shoot this thing with my clear coat gun, and then afterwards clean it out really good. Now, a lot of you're watching other YouTube channels about how to paint. A lot of them are probably really stressing you out about using different guns and not using the same gun for clear, same gun for base, and same gun for primer. I'm here to tell you that what they're telling you is correct and it is smart, but not all of us can do that. Now, I can do it. I've got multiple guns. I actually have a whole drawer full of other guns and stuff, but I don't always do it. Most of the time I shoot all my base coat out of this, all my clear coat out of this, primer out of that, that's it. But I could operate all my jobs off of just one gun. Shoot, I could shoot literally clear coat and base coat out of that one too if I was in a pinch and needed to. So if you're at your house doing this yourself on budget, even if you're shooting a Harbor Freight gun, you can do all the steps. Just clean out really good between the steps, because you don't want to be shooting your clear and then your gun spitting out trash from base coat or primer into your clear coat. So if you're going to use the same gun, do it. There are different needle sizes for different products, and you can find that all on YouTube, or if y'all want to know that information on this channel, I can go over all that in a
Are you kidding me?
Watch my drip drop when I walk out. I'm in Saint Laurent when I hop out.
All right, so as you've seen on the time lapse, we got it all sprayed out. It's still wet. It is, like I said, it's extra slow, so it's gonna dry. But I mean, that roof looks beautiful, man. I mean, that's primer, which to me, I know what normally looks like. That looks beautiful. So see back there, you can kind of see the reflection and the sheen. It's more like a satin, like we went over in the other video. Primer doesn't dry glossy. But the door is beautiful. I mean, everything just turned out really good. So I did go ahead and flow coat this just a little bit, put a little over it just so we have something to block on top of, and then did the whole quarter. I mean, the quarter looks beautiful. I mean, if you refer back to the last video, you remember how bad this thing was hit inside. So all the body lines are back. You can see in the reflection, the shadows. Oh man, it's still strong. Yeah, looks good. I think that might be a wrap for this one. We come back here late tonight to try to, or not to try to, we come back here late tonight to take in a friend's project. We're painting a really cool project, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned to the channel for that one, because we're gonna be putting some paint on something that's really interesting. But for the Camaro, I think that's gonna be it for the bodywork. Come Monday, we'll just be blocking this thing all out and getting this thing ready for paint, and then moving on with the paint process. Everything turned out absolutely amazing. Very happy with the bodywork stage of this car and where we're at with it. Hopefully when we're done, the customer will be happy too. The hood's on the way, the hood's still not here. Door's still not hung. That's how it happens, as we keep putting stuff off. All the interior's put back together. I'll have to go over that in another shot. Windshield's gotta be set after paint, but besides that, Monday, we're gonna start reassembling, and fender's jammed out, all that, doors jammed out. I've already showed you that. We're gonna start putting this thing back together, and we're gonna move on to paint. So stay tuned, make sure you subscribe, and be ready for the final product.